Hey, it's Kyle here, and today I'll be talking about my 5 favorite novels that I read in 2025. This is one of my favorite annual traditions I do on my channel. I always do 3 videos. I talk about my 5 favorite Star Wars books, nonfiction books, and novels I read in that year. So if you're interested in checking those other videos out, just browse my channel. Those videos will be there. And I'll say all the books in this list I've done individual reviews for. So if you'd like to learn more about any of these books, again, just check out my channel, go through all my videos, and you'll find reviews for all these books. So I'm very excited to talk about my 5 favorite novels I've read in 2025, so I hope you'll go on the journey with me. I do want to make one clarification. These books in this list are ones that I read in 2025. I'm not saying they were published in 2025. In fact, some of the cases these books are much older than that. The first time I read these books were in 2025. So with that clarification out of the way, let's start exploring my 5 favorite novels that I read in 2025. Coming in at number 5 is The Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig. This is in kind of the horror genre. It's not a genre I really read a whole lot of, but I'm familiar with Chuck Wendig because he has written Star Wars books before, and I actually really enjoyed the books he read. So when I saw this book in the bookstore, I was like, I really enjoyed his writing style. I really enjoyed the stories he wrote in Star Wars. Let me look at the back cover and see if this sounds interesting. And it did. It sounded very fascinating, so I decided to pick it up, and I'm really glad I did. Do I think I'm going really into the horror genre? No. Will I read more books by Chuck Wendig in the future because I really like his writing style? Probably. I really enjoy it. Basic concept is there's this group of friends in high school. They're kind of going for a hike to kind of have a little camping party on the weekend. They're in this really remote area, and suddenly they come upon a random staircase in the middle of the woods with nothing else around, and they don't know what's going on. And it's like, what is this? One of the friends decides to start climbing the stairs, and then when he gets kind of the top, he just vanishes. And then like, what in the world just happened? And then this book really explores how this random event impacts this group of friends, how it tears them apart, how it really destroys some of them. Other ones, go in denial. Other ones have complete mental breakdowns. What is this like? So this book is kind of focusing both on what these individuals were like when the event happened, but also what it is like, I believe 15 to 20 years later. I can't remember the exact amount, but it is like a couple of decades later after the event. It's a very fascinating examination of these individuals, how an event like this impacts different people differently, how in some cases it brings them closer together, other times it drives them farther apart, and what happens when people try to go back and address a traumatic event. And since this isn't the horror genre, there's some scary stuff that's thrown in there as well. Definitely some supernatural stuff. But very interesting story, very interesting concept, well-written characters, and I really enjoyed it a lot. Coming number 4 on my list is The Starter Villain by John Scalzi. John Scalzi has become one of my favorite, if not my favorite author in recent years. I really love his sci-fi books. They're very fascinating. Several of his books definitely focus more on the humorous side of things, but he does have some more serious stories as well. But I always find his concepts behind his stories very interesting. He does a great job writing his characters, and like I said, a lot of times there's some very funny moments in them. Starter Villain is this really fascinating, entertaining story with this individual who's kind of down on his luck, basically broke, suddenly finds out that his uncle's passed away and was insanely wealthy, but he was also a supervillain. And he's inherited his uncle's supervillain business, and now he's one of the most powerful villains in the world. But that also means other villains are now after him and trying to kill him to kind of seize his power. Very fascinating, a lot of cool technology. I think this is definitely delving into like the James Bond genre of super spies and super criminals, but instead of focusing on the spy side of it like James Bond, you're kind of focusing on the villain side, like a if you want to think of a more humorous side, like an Austin Powers type, but not quite that weird and wacky. A little bit more grounded in our world, but still definitely looking at it from a humorous angle. I really enjoyed this book a lot. Really enjoyed how it ended. And one thing I like about John Scalzi, he does a lot of standalone books. Some of the authors today only write in series, and he has done some series in the past, but a lot of his books are just one-offs. And I think that's always great because you're like, I'm just going to read this one story. By reading this one book, I'm not committing to read 10 books, which sometimes can be overwhelming. And there's some series I think I'll enjoy that I've never checked out because do I really have the time to read that many books in this one specific series when there's a lot of other stuff I want to read. But this is a great standalone book, very cool concept, very funny, great characters, absolutely loved it. Highly recommend Starter Villain by John Scalzi. Number 3 on my list is The Currents of Space by Isaac Asimov. This is a book in the Galactic Empire series, number 2 specifically. I'm a huge fan of Asimov. I've read a lot of his books, but I've never really read the Galactic Empire series. So basically last year I was like, I want to check this series off my list. It's just a short series, 3 books. They're loosely connected. They are somewhat connected to the Foundation series and kind of almost a little bit like prequel books, but not so connected that like if you can read these books and enjoy them and never read the Foundation series. And I would say after you read these books, you don't really have to read the Foundation series to get a satisfying conclusion to these storylines. They kind of wrap up their own. They're basically like standalone books. They're in a loosely connected series. This book really focuses on an individual character who believes he has a secret to an impending disaster that's going to destroy the world, but he's not for sure because his memory's been erased. And this book really examines like what happened and who erased this memory and what was this memory about. There's differing political factions involved, and you're like, who could be involved? Several people might want to erase this memory. And it's really kind of fun playing on trying to figure out the mystery of who erased this memory, but also what was the memory specifically that was erased. Great sci-fi book. Isaac Asimov always has these very inventive, creative, unique concepts behind his stories. The world building's great, even though it's a very short book. It's only a couple hundred pages. I really love this. So if you like Isaac Asimov, I highly recommend this book. And the great thing is, even though it's in the Galactic Empire series, you don't have to read the other books in this series. You can just read this book and you will really enjoy it as a standalone. So definitely recommend The Currents of Space by Isaac Asimov. Number 2 on my list is Act of Oblivion by Robert Harris. Robert Harris is one of my favorite writers in historical fiction. Fatherland is probably my favorite of his books. But I saw this and I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. I really enjoy Robert Harris's writing style. This is an event I'm not super familiar with, so let's check it out. So basically the Act of Oblivion is basically what happened in England during the English Civil War, where the monarchy was overthrown by Oliver Cromwell. You have the king executed, but not too long after, the monarchy is restored, and now the individuals who are involved in the execution of the king are now on the run. And so the Act of Oblivion is basically the law that was passed to kind of arrest and kill these individuals responsible for the king's death. What I did not know, and it's actually historically true, is some of those individuals fled to the American colonies and tried to find allies there and really disappear and save their life and avoid being executed for killing the king. And so this book is really kind of examining this event that I think most people are not really familiar with, but it's also kind of like a chase movie. You have these individuals who are involved in the killing of the king, and you're kind of following them along and trying to decide, like, is what they did right? Is what they did wrong? And honestly, the individuals who are trying to escape, they're kind of debating themselves. Like, they're beginning to second guess themselves. Like, they thought they were on God's side, but like if they were doing what God really wanted them to do, why would he let the monarchy to be restored? And they're beginning to second guess himself. And so you're trying to decide, like, were they right? Were they wrong? Then you're also following the individual who is hired by the English government to basically track these individuals down. And he's, it's basically almost think like The Fugitive, the movie, where you have a cop trying to track down some fugitives. It's very fascinating how he's trying to track them down with the technology of the time. But also he has a lot of stuff that's happened to him that was impacted his personal life, his family, his loved ones during the English Civil War. And again, you're trying to decide, like, is the extreme measures he's going to try to catch these individuals, are they warranted, or is he just as wrong and as evil as these individuals he's trying to catch because they killed the king? Really love this book. I would say the great thing about this, and I think really great historical fiction does this, you don't have to be in history to enjoy this. So if you're not really into history, you can enjoy this and it's still a great story. If you are into history, there's an extra layer of enjoyment for you. So I would definitely recommend The Act of Oblivion by Robert Harris. And my favorite novel that I read in 2025 was The Oracle Year by Charles Soule. I am familiar with Charles Soule. I've read several of his books, but all in Star Wars. He's written several Star Wars novels. He was heavily involved in the High Republic series, which is something I absolutely loved in Star Wars. So when I was browsing the bookstore one day to kind of wanted some new novels to read, and then when I was kind of going down the shelves and I got to the S's, I saw Charles Soule. I was like, hey, I know him. He's written Star Wars books. I've never really read anything that he's written outside of Star Wars. So I picked this book up, looked at the back cover, I was like, this sounds really interesting. And I know I love his writing style. Let's check this out. I'm really glad I did. This book blew me away. I absolutely loved it. The basic concept is this individual wakes up one morning with all these predictions in his mind about what's going to happen. He first thinks this is just a random dream he had, but then eventually these predictions he dreamed about begin to come true. And he realized all these things are actually begin true. So he begins to feel guilty because some of these relate to like natural disasters, people dying. He thinks, maybe I can help make the world a better place. So he releases the predictions online, and it causes chaos because everybody's like, who is doing this? Some people quickly begin to think it's a government conspiracy. The government wants to try to track him down. Other people think this is somebody that has like a direct connection to God. Is this some sort of religious movement? What is going on? So you have religions that are kind of obsessing about this guy, thinking like, oh, this is a direct prophet. We need to make contact with him. Other people thinking like, no, people are going to begin to believe faith in this individual instead of what we believe in, and it's going to destroy our religion. We need to find this person and discredit them and maybe kill them. The government's really obsessed with him because this individual is, kind of destabilizing the world. And the individual involved is just a random, regular person. And the entire time he's trying to figure out what's going on, how do I know this stuff, and can I prevent any of this stuff that I've, dreamed about, or is it just destined to automatically happen? Eventually his friends and family get involved, and then they're trying to figure out what's going on. He's trying to protect them because he realizes his life is in danger. So the last thing he wants is like, if he dies, so what? But he doesn't want his other loved ones to die as well. It's an extremely interesting story. I was guessing the entire time what is going to happen. I don't really know. It's fascinating. The concept really is cool. The characters involved in all the signs are very interesting. The one thing I love about this book, even the villains, the ones who are completely evil, you still understand their mindset of why they're trying to do what they want to do. They're all logical, which is something I always enjoy when villains and the good guys are logicals. They're all making decisions that make sense in regard to their own worldview. This book definitely has some very funny moments, some very interesting moments, definitely moments that make you think about like how you view the world and what you would think if this happened to you. So I would highly, highly recommend The Oracle Year by Charles Soule. He's an amazingly talented author. Love his writing style, does an amazing job with characters, cool story concept. I think if you like sci-fi, if you just like reading a great novel that's kind of a whodunit, because this has a little bit of a mystery element to me, I think you'll really enjoy The Oracle Year by Charles Soule. So I highly recommend you check this book out. So those are my 5 favorite novels that I read in 2025. Let me know in the comment section below, what was your favorite novel that you read in 2025? I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button. If you have yet, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate the support. Again, if you're interested in learning more about any of these books, check out the reviews I did on this channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you the next time. Happy reading.